Welcome back, Scroll and Sword, and congratulations. We are starting the book of Ephesians, which, if I might say, the book of Ephesians is one of the most important books in the entire Bible, especially in the New Testament, especially one of Paul's letters, but it's like so important for unity in the church. And we just read Ephesians 1 through 3, and I want to look at chapter 2, 11 through 22. But first, Ephesians, it was written by Paul to show the church who they are in Christ and how that identity should shape their life together and even reshape it together as the relationship moves on between Christ and his bride. And the first half focuses really heavily on what God has done for us in Christ. And the second half turns toward how we walk because of that reality. And like I said, the major theme is unity, not just in the church, in the way that we think of it in the modern West. In an ancient way, Jews and Gentiles are not just forgiven separately, but formed into one new people in Jesus. I love this. Paul says that Jesus broke down the dividing wall of hostility. And this is likely pulling from the image of the temple barrier that kept Gentiles at a distance. I don't know if you know this, but in the temple courts, Gentiles could actually come near, but they could only go so far, and crossing that boundary could cost them their actual life. It was illegal. It was executionable. And Paul says Jesus, he did not simply give Gentiles better access, like, oh, you can just come a little closer. He created one new man in place of two. The cross did not just reconcile sinners to God, it reconciled enemies to each other in one body. It was unified. It was together. They no longer had to stay separate on the matter. They did not have to handle their sin separately, and they did not get to receive their redemption separately. There was a time in my life where me and Kayla were married, and we were young, and we were just experimenting with finances, and I got my first credit card, and at the end of the day, I maxed out the credit card, and she had no idea about it, and I felt so shameful. You see, she grew up in a household, they were very frugal, and I grew up not paying attention about money. I have no idea how my parents handled money. They handled it, and everything was fine, but me, I was aloof, and I thought this credit card with this $2,000 credit limit just meant I was rich all of a sudden. And then all of a sudden, I put $2,000 on that thing, and I didn't pay the bills. And I realized, oh, the interest on this is absolutely insane. What is interest? I had no idea. But making a long story long, I kept it from Kayla. I kept it at a distance because I was full of shame. And one day we had the conversation, and she asked how much was on my credit card, and I bit my lip and I told her $2,000. And she said, "That's all? We can take care of that. We can take care of that." And guess what? Together we took care of it. There's a thing about salvation where sometimes we think Jesus saves us into isolation, but Jesus did not save us into isolation. He saved us into a family, into a unity, into a kingdom where we can get stuff done together. And you need to ask, like, where are you keeping distance from people Jesus died to bring you near to? You need to pay attention to the walls that you think are wise that might actually be wounds, and let the cross that made two men one, you know what I'm saying, let the cross challenge not just your guilt or your shame, but your hostility that might be towards yourself or others, because the same grace that brought you near can teach you how to bring others close as well. Love y'all. See you in the discussion room.